right, we are pretty much less than a month before the beginning of the NBA season, and we have a ton of Lakers trade rumors starting to heat up. One of my favorite and the most popular of these is the idea that they are potentially going to look into pursuing Andrew Wiggins at some point down the road in the near future. I'm going to say this real quick about Andrew Wiggins before I get into the logistics and whether or not this trade could work for the Lakers and what it could mean for them. Andrew Wiggins, in my opinion, is one of the most unique players in the NBA over the last 15 years. Why do I say that? Well, Andrew Wiggins comes in with these expectations of being a franchise level player. He was a number 1 overall draft pick, even won Rookie of the Year, and had a good start to his career and showed off a ton of promise as a franchise level guy. Had a few seasons of averaging over 20 points per game, but we did get to a point in his Timberwolves career where we wondered if he was that sort of guy. So what ends up happening is they ultimately end up moving him away. He joins up with the Golden State Warriors, and what he does there was so interesting. He adjusted his game and adjusted his role perfectly into what Golden State needed him to become. He goes from being a guy who was looked at as a franchise level player, who was looked at as a primary shot creator, to becoming a very serviceable two-way wing who was no longer that primary offensive option. And he shined in a smaller role. He ends up helping the Warriors win a championship in 2022, and that, in my opinion, was the most important championship of Stephen Curry's career. And ironically, his lone All-Star season came in a smaller role than what he played in Minnesota, right? Playing that role player sort of position for the Warriors gave him his first All-Star appearance relative to him being this 20 point per game guy with the Timberwolves, where he never was an All-Star level player. So you have to commend Andrew Wiggins for his ability to morph and adjust his game to fit whatever situation he is in. Again, that's what's made him such a unique player, and I do think it ushers in some very interesting conversations about his career. Do you look at a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who was a former number 1 overall draft pick, who became a high-end role player? Do you look at his career as a bust or a disappointment, right? How do you evaluate a career like that? Again, a former guy who is looked at as a franchise level player who ends up not becoming that sort of player, but becomes a really good, serviceable role player on a championship level team. How do you define and how do you discuss that sort of career? Same goes for Andrew Bogut, right? He was also a number 1 overall draft pick that never lived up to that expectation, but did play at a high level for a championship contending team for a few years. So just a question, right? How do you evaluate a player like Andrew Wiggins who had a career quite like that? As for his fit with the Lakers, I do like the idea of this a lot. I think, for one, the Lakers, what they currently have is something that is conducive to winning at a high level, with a conditioned Luka Doncic, LeBron James, DeAndre Ayton, Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart, Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent, and some other guys. But there are still some questions, right? You do worry about Marcus Smart's health. If Marcus Smart is not on the court, they lose a massive chunk of their defense. You do wonder about what version of DeAndre Ayton are you going to get. So while I like what the Lakers currently have, I still do think there are questions, and I think adding a guy like Andrew Wiggins could answer a lot of questions, right? And I think his archetype is extremely valuable in the league today. He is an elite level two-way wing, an amazing defender who is very disruptive, knows how to use his length to play passing lanes, can cut off drivers, and is a solid shot blocker at his position. Also very serviceable on the offensive end. Knows how to find baskets without being a primary creator, which is something that we just talked about. He's really good when it comes to acting and getting off the ball, cutting to the basket, and is a solid shooter off the catch. And if you need him to, he can create his own looks, and that is evident with a 40-point game that he had back in March with the Miami Heat. So again, there are so many ways that Andrew Wiggins can affect a team on both ends of the floor. There's so many ways you can utilize him, so many ways he can be a threat defensively, and so many ways he can be a threat on the offensive side of the ball. I think the Lakers adding a guy like Andrew Wiggins could mean a ton for this team, especially from a two-way standpoint. Here's the only question as far as that goes. For one, Are they ready to give up a significant part of their current roster to make this happen? Case in point, Andrew Wiggins is making around $30 million per year. This is not going to be an easy deal to pull off. And again, it's going to look like the Lakers giving up a significant part of their current roster to make that situation work out and make sense. So it could look like the Lakers getting to the mid-season point and giving up a massive chunk of their roster to bring back Andrew Wiggins and have to figure things out for the bottom half of that season and stay within the playoff and contention picture, right? So are they ready for that sort of challenge of having to completely revamp and overhaul their roster to bring in Wiggins and figure that out for the half of a season? That is a massive question to ask, but again, there is upside still with bringing in Andrew Wiggins. Maybe the upside of that overweighs the challenges that come with moving guys around to bring in Andrew Wiggins in the first place. But I think if they're able to retain a core at least of Luka, Ayton, Reeves, and LeBron, and add Andrew Wiggins to the mix, I think that makes them a championship contender for sure. And again, right now, I think they're a contender, but I think Wiggins adds another dynamic that could allow them to make a really deep playoff run and maybe gives you a little bit more confidence in their ability to perform at a high level in the playoffs. So we'll see. Again, it is a very difficult deal to try to work out. There are challenges with that, with giving up a large part of your core to bring back one guy who, again, could be great, but you'll be stuck in the situation where you're having to figure things out with a completely different looking roster with newer looking role players for half of a season while you're trying to stay in the playoff picture and while you're still trying to contend for a championship. But we'll see how serious they are. I love where Andrew Wiggins is at right now in his career. I think he's a very valuable player, and I think there's a lot he could bring to the table for the Lakers to help bolster what they currently have going on right now.